shoplift anything from Tesco. I think that was the point at which everyone got most animated. So, questions, criticisms. That's another thing, by the way. I love criticism. I don't want cheerleaders, I want comrades with opinions. So, except Irina, my most faithful cheerleader. Yeah, so if you have problems, however big they are, so long, I don't even have to say to this group because I respect you too much to remind you to be respectful, but constructive criticism, however enormous, very welcome. Go ahead. Roisin has some criticism.
No, it's a thought that's turning into a sentence. It might just take a minute. So, yeah.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I hear to check, kind of, when I kind of heard your sort of experiences, and I observed sort of this, my kind of, oh, something wrong and something bad, then I realized that what we're talking about, you know, that we're kind of really, I'm in that kind of system of thinking, you know, conditioned to kind of certain things. And if I remove these sort of things, you know, and look at it as a kind of something stepping out of usual kind of expected things to act, they become almost like, they become inspirational. Saying that, they don't have to me kind of some kind of huge focus, you know, so in order kind of for me to become revolutionary, it's not necessary I have to copy you and go to Tesco and do something.
Absolutely not.
That's what I'm kind of saying.
No. I'm not suggesting that.
No, I'm just saying that's kind of, you know, I kind of realized that again my mind is looking for certain patterns, you know, I can follow, and that kind of what is on my against the whole idea of, you know, I was listening to other philosopher and he was saying do something impossible as a kind of act of on behalf of your own utopia, you know, step out of the boundaries, and it's kind of to me very inspirational thought, you know.
Thanks.
So maybe in activism as well, we will kind of, I think I'm not enough exploring the ways kind of how we can express, how can I express myself?
Oh, that's
It's
something.
kind of real kind of huge feeling.
Well, that's something.
Hopefully we can explore more.
Yes. That's a particular thing we should explore, actually. That's like a really interesting issue because Marcuse refers to surreal forms of protest. So, I mean, that's a really fascinating issue in itself. And what he said about our politics, I mean, kind of DIY politics, have to enter previously apolitical genres. I think that's true. Also, I think what you were saying about stepping outside boundaries, and that should happen in activism as well. That ties into what I was trying to criticise and didn't really get much time on because this is all being chopped to pieces, is the life activism divide, you know? Because as I say, I personally, though I'm the first to admit it doesn't go very far, I perceive, say, shoplifting as something that both fits in with my personal values as a life choice. Like, in context of my own individual life, that feels better to me and is in tune with my values more than exchanging money for something. I don't believe in an exchange economy, and I think it's deeply unhealthy and deeply confining to the imagination that we're trying to liberate to daily reinforce these repressive habits. I just want to find other ways. And having said that, I also do regard shoplifting as an act of political resistance. Obviously a very, very small one, but still an act of political resistance. So I do think that's, actually we have an exercise about that. I'm going to force everybody to do life activism columns, and we can write how things cross that divide. But, because one thing I used to do, I'm making myself so infamous here, but I was like 19. Forgive me everybody, I was 19.
Just to check, do you want the video to say, don't do this at home?
No,
Marble the-
I want this
Parental
video.
guidance.
I want this video to say, everybody go out and do this now, wherever you are. No. We'll be exploring that in more depth in the workshop because there are multiple problems with this. Just for anybody potentially watching this video, to summarise some of the problems. It's potentially elitist. Like, certain people are in situations in many ways that are more precarious than mine, and the risks for them doing this particular type of what I conceive of as action would be much greater. There's also the issue, if you're engaged in something else, if you're engaged in major political activism where you are likely to come to the attention of the authorities, that's probably another situation where you shouldn't get caught stealing a packet of crisps. I don't need crisps, this is hypothetical. Also, I would say, in the unlikely event of any viewers being inspired by this, confine your activities to major supermarket chains. I actually knew a blog once that actually gave rise to a zine called Guerrilla Action Against Supermarket Chains, which is shoplifting. So, guerrilla action as well as a lifestyle choice. But I hope that goes some way towards answering some of your concerns. Life as activism, activism as life, much more powerful.
Rachel, that means get monkeys to do your shoplifting.
Kids.
Not the monkeys again, please. Somebody please tell me that was all hypothetical. Trying to think of a non-18 certificate word, but somebody tell me that was all hypothetical and useless in the real world, because I have a really great response to that question. Somebody's got to ask me. Not Ron. Okay, Ron.
Well, I can take two then. I mean,
Yes.
I'll adopt your question, so you know what it is, so you can answer it. But also, I do know that Marcuse, you said he was hopeful, and I'd say probably optimistic, but he did kind of go through quite a lot of people looking for, revolutionaries to replace the working class. So all the neo-Marxists, or the Frankfurt School, Western Marxists, they'd given up on the working class in a sense by thinking that they'd been bought off and pacified by the system. And they even had ideas about, that, a TV set was as bad as a kind of concentration camp type of thing. And in the sense that it does as much damage, if you like. And so then they started looking at the women's movement and the civil rights movement. And at the end of his life, 79, the ecology movement, or what we call the environmental movement now, And he was looking for alternatives to the working class. So it's kind of like, who's left, really? I mean, are the working class still bought off? Are they... Can they be revolutionised if there ever were? I mean, where are the troops going to come from?
So you're asking, who are our revolutionaries?
Yeah, go on then.
One word. Can we guess? Us. Yeah, we're the revolutionaries. We all are. I would say Marcuse did not spend his whole life getting it wrong. He was too smart. He got it right every single time. Problem was, he was just one person. And the people he went to looking for revolutionaries didn't know yet that he had got it right, but he did. The working class are still the revolutionaries. Feminists, ecology movement, they're all the revolutionaries. It's interesting you should say that, because actually one thing I was reading when I prepared for the discussion and all said that one thing that distinguished Marcuse from his erstwhile colleagues at the Frankfurt School was that they became the stereotype of the ivory tower revolutionary, and all these upheavals were going on, and yet they were kind of pontificating in their ivory towers. And Marcuse, give him his due, was out there looking, and oh dear. steal a chair from Herbert Hippopotamus. Are we still okay filming so we don't get...
That's it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, where was I? Who were the revolutionaries? Yes, this is interesting in terms of the question someone asked me a couple of days ago as well, which is basically, is the left doomed because of everything, all the terrible things we've seen, among them the repressive communist regimes I mentioned. And I thought that was quite a poignant question, because it's a question that Marcuse must have asked himself time and again. Are we doomed? You know? And the answer I ended up giving is no, we're not. There's nothing ideologically wrong with our movement. What's wrong is that there's so much to resist. Like the Great Refusal is such hard work because it's meant to be hard work. Capitalism has made sure that it's really hard work. And I would agree, like what you said, TV and concentration camp, shocking, outrageous, but I get their point. What I said was a superficially more comfortable form of oppression. That's how everyone's been bought off. And even if we're aware that we've been bought off, we don't have the time to do anything about it. Because they've made sure that even life is so expensive that we'll be working 9 till 5 just to stay alive. There's no time left to critique the system. And that's one exercise we're going to do, actually, like, how do we resist capitalism when there is a capitalist in all of us, albeit a frustrated, resentful one? So, in answer to your question, we are all revolutionaries, but we have a hell of a lot of work to do. So I think, instead of running around looking for our revolutionary class, we need to start creating our revolutionary class, and that means starting with ourselves and with this group, and then it gets bigger, it grows. We can start by liberating our imaginations right here. In answer to the other question, which I gave to you, so I feel a bit of a fraud answering it, what people don't know, I mean, in answer to the question, is this all hypothetical? Is it useful in the real world? What people don't know is that Marcuse's name was graffiti all over public buildings during the student revolt. What people don't know is that one-dimensional man, his, like, a really powerful social protest, which is in the bibliography, of course, inescapably, that was like the handbook for direct action training for the students, for the student activists and the anti-war activists. It was that important. And what you didn't see these people saying, these were people engaged in real struggles. Marcuse actually said that they were proof of the reality of the alternative, meaning that they had created, however briefly, transiently, however threatened they were from outside, however quickly it fell apart, they had created the alternative. Utopia was possible. And what you didn't get these people engaged in real struggles saying was, I can't be doing with all this theory, let's just do something now. They recognise the importance of choosing what you do, because we only have so much time. Let's have action, intelligent action. And that's where this comes in. You can't have one without the other. So that's essentially the answer to my question, which I gave to Roger and he asked me. So war criticisms and hatred and...
So what I'm kind of observed, watching a video by Marcuse, he asked that question, and can we ask people to change if they feel more and more comfortable within existing system?
Okay.
That's one thing. Another thing, the point that capitalism is constantly evolving, and therefore we become more and more kind of evolving, and it's kind of actually a response to people's needs to some extent, you know, so kind of, and it kind of gives that idea of other desires can be achieved, other kind of you know, things we can desire more. So there is some kind of almost aim, you know, kind of which is given. And another thing, alternative of capitalism, you know, again, I'm questioning, it's another point.
A practical alternative.
Yeah, because when we talk, I have difficulty to say, I'm saying now with more and more ease, I'm anti-capitalist, but I came from Soviet Union, so
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure kind of
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. Do I want to go there? And for many people, when I say I'm anti-capitalist,
Yes.
you know, they say, oh, you want to go there.
Yeah.
No, I do not.
No.
So I kind of say that we are kind of maybe trapped, maybe just me, kind of in that sort of, again, dichotomy, kind
Yes,
of this
that's
or
right.
that. That's nothing else. But, so could you kind of
Yes,
just comment on
yeah,
that,
that's-
if it's
That's
possible?
really
Sorry.
profound, and there are a lot of questions within it. But what I would say is that the alternatives you present are alternatives that have been created for that purpose. It's kind of a greatly expanded version of representative democracy, and the problem there is that we never get to choose what we want. They manufacture the choices and they present them to us and say tick the box. And they've done that the same with how we live our lives, you know. We get repressive communism or we get repressive capitalism. Choose which, there's nothing else. And I think that is, that's where the Great Refusal comes in, because it's something else. And I think there is actually, I feel a real fraud actually using this quote, because I haven't read Eros and Civilization, but I know the quote, which is, the utopian claims of imagination have become saturated with historical reality, which is a really lovely quote. And what it means is, our imaginations are so trapped by now that we're just thinking, okay, hate communism, hate capitalism, what else, There's nothing else. No, up to now, there never has been. As I said in my talk, we've never seen utopia, But the hope, I feel, is times when we have, just glimpses of it, when we take a step towards it in any way. So I think we need to start making the alternative, stop looking for it anywhere except within ourselves and our relationships and our activism, we can create it. As in response to your question, like about how capitalism is growing and more neutralising us and producing all these new desires for us to satisfy, that's exactly what I meant. I mean, that's what planned obsolescence is a kind of example of, really. It's a deliberate, I'm going to sound really conspiracy theorist here, but it is a deliberate capitalist plot, and it keeps us enslaved our whole lives. But the hope there is that it cannot go on. And that's a strange, negative, apocalyptic kind of hope, but it cannot go on. And actually I was reading this on a forum discussing Marcuse's ideas, and one of the remarks was, when you're about to despair of the whole idea of the Great Refusal having any practical utility, just think about this. Are we going to get left with capitalism? Can we progress to the extent where everyone enjoys the benefits of capitalism? Do we think that that's possible? All the people who are alive, of every species, every country in the world, is it possible for us to reach the extent of consumer comfort where everyone is looked after? It's not possible. So something's got to give. Capitalism can't keep doing this to us. The whole game, Marcuse's game where the dice is loaded, will become obvious. And that's when we come in with our liberated imaginations to find practical solutions. And in a word, by the way, if you say not communism, not capitalism, then what? You know what I'm going to say, anarchy. So, yeah.
Well, no, I was just smiling at your comment.
for protesters, and that's, that's the place in the system for protesters, and that it has to move to previously apolitical spheres like art, but I'm not sure if art was ever apolitical. Certainly not the way I understand it, but like there's so much of what you were saying about the kind of liberated imagination that like I think I'm taught every day, but probably most people aren't, but like this idea that you never learning through process, and like you don't sit down and plan what your end product's gonna be. You have to do things, and always more possibilities open up from doing things, like, and what you're saying about like how different it felt when you shoplifted the food and gave it to people. Like most recently what I've been doing is eating dandelions just straight off the road, and finding out all the edible plants, and just finding different ways of living. And I walked all the way up Tulka Quay Road, like in the depths of the docklands with big cylinders either side to go collect a passport, and it just was such a strange place. And trucks, no pedestrians anywhere, just trucks going up and down either side, no one around, and sat down in the middle and ate dandelions, and then got to the end of the road where there was a secluded like little, not beach, but some rocks and mud and water, but hedges all around, and just went for a nude stroll along. And it just it felt like I couldn't imagine how that would feel before I did it.
Yes.
But then I did it, and I was just like, I'm naked in Dublin city centre, chilling out on the beach. And it is relevant, I swear.
It is completely and utterly relevant.
Yeah.
Because that is lived experience completely changed.